Welcome to the Bald Truth Leadership Podcast, where you get straightforward, no-nonsense ideas on leadership and growth, both personally and professionally. It's brought to you by the Chief Coaching Officer of the Peak Performance Group. He's also a brilliant and successful serial entrepreneur. He's a two-time author. He's a certified executive coach. He's a sales genius. He's bald.
Hey now.
And he's your host of the Bald Truth Leadership Podcast. Buckle your chin strap. Here's your host, Coach Rick Colster.
Hey, welcome to the Bald Truth Leadership Podcast. I'm your host, Coach Rick Colster. Remember to like and subscribe below. We're on iTunes, Spotify, iHeart, YouTube video. Hit like and subscribe, folks, so you get every single episode. Welcome, and thank you for tuning in. Today's Bald Truth, as always, is about leadership. And today is about alignment, engagement, and leading. Leadership has so many facets. I've learned over the years that leadership is so many different things. And our guest today focuses on how you can align with military precision and engage your team for maximum performance. By the way, she's a former Israeli military commander, almost a commando. This girl is tough, I'm telling you. And she's a doctor as well as a pretty good dancer, as a competitive ballroom dancer. She's got a wide variety of interests, and she's going to share with us today her ideas on engagement and alignment. By the way, she's an expert in neuroscience and a chiropractor on top of that now helps organizations get that competitive edge by developing their leaders and their teams. She's got a top-selling book called Power Conversations, and in that she shares more info that really encompasses her experiences as an Israeli commander and living life in a war-torn country. Today, she travels the country speaking to leaders and teams on engagement, alignment, and leadership. I am so excited because she is one of my favorite people. In fact, she kind of scares me a little bit. But as the reality is she's one of the sweetest things out there. And my friend, Dr. J, I've always been a basketball fan, Dr. J, but I've just found a new Dr. J, my friend, Dr. Karen Jacobson. Karen, welcome. We're glad to have you.
Hello there, Rick, Coach Rick. Thank you for having me. And yes, I do embrace Dr. J because I have something that certifies that I am Dr. J. I have a license for that.
I love that. And, I played basketball growing up. So when I heard you call yourself Dr. J the first time we spoke, I was like, yes, I've got a new favorite Dr. J. That's for sure. Because, folks, this lady is smart. She's got it on the ball. She's accomplished, and she can help your team. So let's share what's on your mind today. Let's talk about you. Tell us a little bit about you, how you came here, how you became a chiropractor, how you became an expert in alignment and engagement.
Thank you for that question, Rick. And that is a loaded question. I'm sure we can talk about that for a long time. But let's really align and get down to some specifics. One of the reasons why I really focus on alignment is because of the fact that everything that I have done has really been aligned from the inside out. And what do I mean by that? It's the fact that the things that I want to create, the things that I believe in and that align with my personal truth. And I will work with organizations to help them not only find their truth, but be aligned with that so that they can really operate at their ultimate potential. A lot of that for me has come from, I would say probably the one person in my entire life, and that's not a very short life, that I ever really emulated. And that was my grandfather. My grandfather was not a tall man in stature, but he had big presence. And he taught me how to learn. He taught me how to think. He taught me how to strategize. And he really helped instill, as much as I was a young kid, he instilled such powerful characteristics and really helped me find some of my essence. And those habits that he gave me when I was a 6-year-old kid, when I moved to Israel, are habits that have remained with me to this day. And I still live in alignment with those habits.
I love that. Grandparents are probably the coolest influences in our lives. And knowing and hearing that about your grandfather, that he made that big of an impact on you, that is just the coolest thing ever. I love hearing that. And because I'm a grandfather now myself, so I've got the opportunity, I've got a grandson and a granddaughter. So I've got an opportunity to work with my grandson to teach him how to be a good man. And my granddaughter to teach her how to be responsible and take care of herself. And that's just a wonderful thing that you can do. So you would talk about, your book is about conversations. I want to talk about conversations because you talk about alignment, but also we can't have alignment if we don't have conversations. What holds us
Absolutely.
back from having those good conversations that make a difference?
Well, when I talk about power conversation, those to me are conversations with intention. And it's not just the intention for you to hear me, but it's really the intention to understand you. And all of my programs have a theme of being able to connect and look at commonalities, because when I can work with a common goal with somebody, then I'm already in alignment with them. So I'm already creating that through my conversation and through my relationships. Businesses, companies, associations, organizations, and countries, they're not built by process. They're built by the people that follow a process. And a process can either support us or hinder us. What are we doing as people to get on board with the process and connect with each other to be able to also engage people in the process? I'll give you an example. Years ago, I was looking at working with a very specific company, and I looked at some of the company values. And those values, ultimately, when I was doing some training as a hired trainer for them, some of those values were in alignment because their outer values to support the community and educate worked with mine. But their inner values of how they work with their contractors and with their customers and really how those people are treated didn't align with my values.
Ah, interesting.
And ultimately, it was a question, do I stay or do I go? And I ended up leaving because of the fact that the company values and the way they treated company employees and company contract workers was not in alignment with the values that I see.
And that makes sense. We love values. At the Peak Performance Group, one of the core things we work on with our leaders as we do leadership development is core values. And by the way, I love that. Should I stay or should I go? There's a song in there someplace. I know that.
That should I stay or should I go?
Yeah. See, for those listening, you know, those that know. If you don't know, check it out. But the reality
right?
is without core values to guide you. Think about that in your organization. If you're listening, think about your organization. What are your organizational core values? Now, what are your personal core values? Are they in alignment? And I love that because it ties right into what you do, Karen, is you align organizations and core values without, if they're misaligned, what ultimately happens when we have misaligned values personally and organizationally?
When I work with organizations, and most of the time I'll work with the executive teams and their leadership teams, that's one of the key questions, because when we look at a team that's fractured and fragmented, very often it's going to be either the communication or the values. Those are the two things that I often look at. There is going to be an aspect where the leadership does not know how to manage, and that also comes down to communication and connections. There are different ways to lead people, and there is not one recipe to lead everyone the same way, because as individuals, our behaviors are different, our motivators are different. So really going into a company to understand why there are challenges, why is there clashing, why is there lack of collaboration, why are there communication issues, why is there lack of follow through and accountability?
Ooh, accountability, that's huge.
Well, if I am as asked as an individual within a company, I'm asked to do something that doesn't follow, as you would say, the core values, it's hard to develop accountability. So when I will go in, when I look at alignment, I'm going to look at anything from an individual to the core team that you're working with, to the values of the company. And are your personal values aligned all the way up and down? Because if not, you could have great personal values, but you may not be a fit for this team, and you may not be a fit for the company.
And that's interesting because I've been hired a couple of times in my career to, hey, make these guys accountable. You're the guy that's going to hold them accountable. I said, well, that's really not what I can do, because you have to as a CEO. But accountability is a big issue. And I love the fact that with aligned core values and communication comes accountability.
So here's how it ties in communication. Many people out there, and I'm sure a lot of your listeners are very familiar with what they call personality assessments. They're really not personality assessments, they're behavioral assessments.
Correct.
And we behave differently. Some of the common ones might be Strength Finders or Myers-Briggs or DISC. I work a lot with DISC. And I've actually boiled it down to my own 4 personas. And you can even see that in the book. I know you've looked at the book. The book has some of the 4 personas. I talk about the commander, the cheerleader, the caregiver, and the computer whiz. And that follows the DISC in DISC to really articulate the type of behavior. Each one has different characteristics. As an intelligent leader, you want to be in alignment with each member of your team. It's important for you to understand the way they behave, the way they perceive information, the way they learn, the way they communicate, because that is going to be your key to help develop accountability as long as the core values are lined up. If the core values are not lined up, no type of conversation, even if I'm communicating in that individual's language, is going to help develop accountability. And furthermore, accountability does not develop from the outside in. Accountability develops from the inside out. From the outside in, you have enforcement. And enforcement is what we used to use carrot and stick method.
Sure.
Okay? I'll either punish you or I'll reward you. And that is supposed to motivate someone to become accountable. If I feel that I'm in alignment with what the company stands for, I'll develop my own accountability.
Well, that's it. We use the carrot and stick, or we use the fear factor, that fear motivation. Do it or else you lose your job. I call it the caveman mentality. When the caveman who had the biggest stick, he got people to do whatever he wanted. As soon as someone took away that big stick, there was no more motivation. It changes. And the same thing, as soon as you find this a lot when in organizations, I've seen it when people are just done. I mean, you can threaten them as far as try to motivate them to get it done. And everyone's like, oh, I got to pay my bills, so I better do my job. And even my boss is a jerk. I get it. But now I better do it because my boss is a jerk, but I'm going to get fired. I'm feared of getting fired, so I better do the job. But as soon as they go...
what you're describing, that is exactly when they're not in alignment with the company.
Exactly. And as soon as that fear comes away, and I've experienced when I left my last corporate job, I didn't care anymore. He had no power over me. My boss at the time had no power over me because I really didn't care if I worked there or not. I was ready to find a new job. And as soon as he threatened me, I went, dude, got nothing.
That, Coach Rick, goes directly to a behavior, though.
Mm-hmm.
And that's also one of the reasons why, as a leader, as Coach Rick, you have the ability to make some of those decisions. Think about this. If we were in a world where everybody was a leader, then there would be no followers. There has to be a certain amount of a population that allows people to lead them. Now, they may at times bulk to certain decisions. They may make comments, but in behavior styles, there's also a large percent of people that want to be told because they're not comfortable with making decisions. They're not comfortable with conflict. They're not, they need to follow certain rules because that's what creates order in their lives. And so in order to do that, you have to have the right people that are communicating, that are setting the rules, that are creating the right alignment. There are going to be people that will stay at what we would call a dead end job because they're too afraid of what else is out there. And as you said, that making that change, taking that leap is not something that they can do. And it's not good or bad. There's no judgment here because we are all different and we are all cogs in a large wheel. When I work in a company and we're talking to the leadership, I still talk about the fact that they need to take care of the person in the mailroom and of the janitors and of the bus drivers, because without them, the company will not function.
Exactly. So we've got it. And I was talking about that today. I have an entrepreneurial spirit. I've been an entrepreneur all my life since I was in my teenage years. I always had some sort of entrepreneurial thing going on. Not everybody's built that way. I'm just sorry. It's not the way it is. No, can't stand up, take charge, just get it done. Because, that's the title of my book's Roll Up Your Sleeves and Get to Work. Not everybody's ready to roll up their sleeves and get to work. They really want that. They need
the guidance,
direction, etc. And we see it a lot, to reference your military background, we see it a lot with a lot of the military guys that come out of the military after having that structure, building a career, and they go into, now what? I've retired. I'm 40, 50 years old, and I'm retired. Now what do I do? And if they don't go back into some sort of structured environment, a corporate environment, they're lost. They try to be an entrepreneur and they end up waiting for someone to tell them what to do.
So here's an interesting thing, because I'll take exception to that when it comes to that aspect of alignment. It depends on what position you've had in the military.
Okay, I agree.
Because if you're going to talk about somebody who was a commander in elite unit that has to deal with a lot of strategy, that has to deal with a lot of creativity, that has to think outside the box, that deals with life-threatening situations, they have the ability to move around and make those changes. If you're dealing with, you have a lot of people that are career military that are admins, or they're sitting in an office and they are rule followers, that's where that transition to the entrepreneurial is going to be more difficult. And when I was, one of my first positions when I was in the military, I was in military intelligence, and this was before I was a non-commissioned officer, and which was the kind of job that was fitting to me. Had they done DISC assessments before we went into the military, they would have realized that there's certain positions, there's certain jobs they cannot give people. They put me in a room in front of a computer and had me work on data. There wasn't even a window in the room. There was not anybody around. Now, just imagine me, and you know me, we're friends, you know how much I can talk, and you know how I need people around me, putting me in a room in front of a computer.
My head would explode, personally.
It did. I literally got to a point where I broke down. And I ended up, now at the time, I had other challenges as a young woman. I had health challenges and I was in and out of hospitals. So I literally collapsed. And that was a blessing in disguise, because on top of that, the commander that I had, who was not in alignment with what was happening with me, thought that through fear, she would motivate me to do the work. But that didn't work either. I literally was willing to stand court-martial to refuse an order from her. But see, that's where I reconnected. I was willing, I stood court-martial because I refused an order. I did not want to go back to that position.
See, and we've got to learn that. I think that's something we've got to be aware of as leaders, is that alignment. And that's the alignment piece, is making sure, to steal Jim Collins's concept, right people on the bus, right people in the right seats on the bus. How do you have that alignment? DISC assessments, some kind of assessment. So folks, you're listening and you're seeing a misalignment in your organization, seek out someone like Dr. Karen, Dr. J. Say, hey, can you help my team do a DISC assessment on my team? Can you see where the misalignment may be? And that may be the simple little tweak that you need. So we're going to make sure you have Dr. J's info to get a hold of her. So if you want to do some of that DISC, you want to do some of those alignment, those assessments, that she can help you with that as well. But if you don't, you know what? Find one that works for you. That
we actually take that.
Your team aligned.
I want to add in here that we actually take that to the next level, because it's not just, there's a lot of places that will just do assessments. And sometimes assessments can be fun. Some people enjoy them, but we actually take that, Coach Rick, to the next level. And we do something called benchmarking.
Oh, yeah.
When
absolutely.
I work with organizations to help them with team development, and we look at right person, right seat, are they holding the right positions, or is the team lacking? We will get to a place where, okay, they need to hire, at one of the companies that I had worked with, I worked with them for a couple of years on leadership. And then they came back and they said, look, we did a team retreat, and we realized that we have problems with customer service. And then we did an assessment looking at the wheel of how the whole team worked together. We actually don't have one of the people that in my world we call the cheerleader, which is the person that really is in charge of being able to create those relationships. And so what we had to do is we had to go back and sit with their executive team and put together a job description. They hired a new manager, and they hired a customer service manager. And part of that was going to be somebody that had both the leadership skills, but had those communication skills, and literally created not just the job description, but the character description.
Characteristics of what
the characteristics that were necessary.
I love that.
And that's what part of the benchmarking is. That's when we go in and they look at their hires. We do the assessment, and then they consulted with me and say, hey, Dr. J, here are these two people. Can you run on these three candidates? Can you run the assessment and bring us your feedback? And that's part of the big picture. And part, it's because somebody might be fitting on paper, but may not be fitting in person. So everything really has to be in alignment again. That the candidate that looks good on paper is also the right candidate that's aligned with the people in the team.
That makes total sense. It's that subjective and objective, as I tell clients. It's that subjective. Does it feel good? Do you get a warm and fuzzy when that person walks in the room? When they talk to you, you go, yeah, they kind of get it. And then there's the objective piece, which is the assessment piece, to see if their values could be their values, could their behaviors are aligned with the organization, whatever benchmark you might have. And it really takes a whole combination. It's not one or the other. And if you're reading resumes and you're doing hiring, folks, and just so you're reading his resume to check the box, you're missing 2/3 or more of who that person is. So yeah. So I got a question, Karen. Okay, I got a question. You've got an amazing, rich, varied background, and I'm not sure where we want to start here. I mean, I love the fact that you're a chiropractor, right? Because I've been a chiropractic proponent for years. I love chiropractic care. I'm a true believer, believe it or not. I was a performance athlete back in the 80s, and I used chiropractic to help me in my athletic and better. It really helped me improve. I was a competitive triathlete, and it helped me get to there. So when we talk about body alignment and leadership alignment, how do they work together? Let's talk about that. Body alignment and leadership alignment. How do they work together, or are they alike? How are they alike?
To me, it all started when I looked at how to bring somebody to operate out of their ultimate performance. And ultimate performance, your ultimate potential is not just your mindset. Your ultimate potential is not just your physicality. It's not just your thoughts. It's not just your ideas. It's everything put together. If I am going to lead and I want to lead with confidence, I have to embody that. I have to embody that with every cell of my body. And that basically means not just talking, even as when I was a practicing chiropractor, I had to serve as an example. That's leadership. Leadership is walk your talk. There was no way that as a chiropractor back then that was talking about health and well-being and was an athlete, that I could have been in a place where I was unhealthy, where I was unfit, where I did not, do the things that I taught my patients. And again, it was body, mind, and spirit. And I've taken that and brought that into my leadership and communication platform. Started off with high performance. And then from that, realizing that, how sometimes pieces just line up at a certain way. They may not be there at the beginning, but ultimately they just line up and you can see the thread. So when I started originally, I was focused on high performance, and then realizing when I took the military, when I took chiropractic, and when I took dance, what did they have in common? So I talked at the beginning about posture. Well, posturing, just to say that I'm posturing is not necessarily have always a positive connotation. But when I talk about being in alignment, that to me is first of all, that's a juicy word. Well, being in alignment.
Now, I don't interrupt, but you mentioned presence early on in the conversation. When someone walks into a room, they just tell, it's just a presence, and you have that presence about you. And when you're on stage, when you're sharing, I love watching you on the platform because you give such a powerful message, but you have this presence about you. And many leaders do. We've seen across leadership, people that are in leadership positions have that presence when they walk into a room. Doesn't posture begat some of that? They've got to have this posture about themselves.
It's what we
walk
call
in doing this. I think I'm the leader.
That's a thug leader. It is, and it's what we call, Coach Rick, executive presence. And executive presence is not because of the fact that I want to command from power. I want to command from my inner power. And I don't really need to command. I don't need to command or demand. My presence creates that. And how do we create that type of presence? It's not just our mindset, because if you recall when Dr. Amy Cuddy talks about, a power pose. Mm-hmm. A power pose is a natural thing for people that are strong from within.
Got it.
And that confidence that comes across is something that I also always love to. That's why I love working, even when I do executive coaching, I love working with individuals that I can see they might want to shift from manager to leader and sometimes move away from the admin side and really build their presence. Part of that work is what are they doing with their lifestyle? Because how are they carrying themselves? What are their thoughts? Toxic thoughts create toxic events. Toxic food creates toxic presence.
So you're saying it's mindset as well.
Oh, absolutely. Alignment.
And that's amazing, because I love that. When you talk about mindset, having the right mindset, walking in with that right mindset, I think is critical as a leader. So, all right. So we've talked about chiropractic care. We talk about presence, talk about posturing. If you were to say there were 3 steps to alignment and engagement, what would they be?
On a global level or as a takeaway, what you can do?
So how about a takeaway that our listeners or our viewers can use?
So when I talk about one of my calls to action is align, engage, lead. And what does that really mean? Align is aligning with yourself and with others, which means the first step is know who you are. Know who you are, know your strengths, know your challenges, and leverage those strengths when you're connecting with other people. Engage is listen to the other person that you're speaking to and speak in their language. It is so essential to be able to hear, truly hear and understand someone and speak to them at that level and connect on that level, not above, not below, in their own language. And when you can do that and really hear who they are, the aspect of leadership is really easy because they feel valued, supported, connected. They're in line with everything that you're suggesting. And that is something that just comes to you.
That's perfect, folks. Well, you heard it. You heard it from the source right here. The doctor has spoken. I'll tell you what, that's some good stuff right there. Thank you, Karen. Thank you for that. So your book, how can people get your book?
They can contact me directly if they would like an autographed book. I offer those with a little extra bonus as well, and that is to reaching me through my site. I'm on all social media, and everything is Dr. Karen Jacobson. So it's Dr. Karen Jacobson with an SON. And if not, and they just anonymously want to get one, they can always go to Amazon.
Of course. So what's your website? How can they get a hold of you?
It's Dr. Karen Jacobson.
drkarenjacobson.com.
And that would be the same as my Facebook, as my Twitter, as my LinkedIn, as my YouTube, as Instagram. Wherever they might want to reach me, they can find material. There's a lot of free giveaways. And there's actually 7 strategies to becoming an effective leader, which is a free ebook that they can get through the website.
Perfect. That's it. So folks, drkarenjacobson.com. That's the website. Check her out on Facebook, Instagram, social media, LinkedIn. If you can't find her, you ain't trying. That's for sure. So now people want to book you to speak. Same thing?
Same thing. Same thing. Dr. Karen Jacobson, drj at drkarenjacobson.com. There's actually on the website, on the homepage, there's actually a button where they can book information there, and I will have somebody contact them immediately.
So folks, if you're looking for somebody who can really transform your team, help your team align and engage, I got to tell you, I've seen Karen speak. I've seen her engage with teams. And if you don't hire her and bring her on to talk to your team, you're missing out. This is a lady with a lot of experience, life experience, as practical as well as that inherent experience that you have. So, all right, Dr. J, we got a special just for you. This is a Coach Rick special, curveball, I may say. So I'm going to make you think on your feet. Let's see how you think on your feet, because I like to find out about people, not just what they want us to hear, but who you really are. So here's your question. I got 3 questions to close this out today. You're holding a dinner party for 5 people, or excuse me, for 6, yourself included. So you get to invite 5 people. What 5 people do you invite and why?
Ooh. Well, the first one, just because of the fact that I'm nice and you extended the invitation, I'd love to have you come to dinner.
Be my pleasure.
Well, that was because you added 6. You added 6. If there was 5, then maybe not. But because you added 6, you just got a seat at my table. Jeanne d'Arc, Joan of Arc. She has been from the time I was probably about 14 years old. There has been this empowering connection with her story and what she stood for. That to me has always been absolutely amazing. Okay, I would bring my grandfather back.
Excellent.
And need I say more for that? I was only probably 11 when my grandfather passed. So I would love to have adult conversation, really getting to speak to my grandfather. From my musical and performance background, I would love to bring Celine Dion.
Wow, nice.
Yeah, I've listened to her a lot. I've been extremely impressed with certain things that she has done throughout her life. with her accomplishments, with her views. I've got two more seats at the table, and they're very valuable. And so, I'm actually going to go, because I'm going with my gut right now. I would bring back my grandmother, Grandma Rosa, who I've never met, who I'm named after. And apparently, according to my mother and my grandfather, before he passed, she was an absolutely incredible person. And just to know that that I got her name is very powerful for me. And what's coming to me is, here's a curveball for you. I'd love to bring Jesus Christ as the ultimate healer, as I have seen him, and being, from a Jewish background. Here is someone who is Jewish. I would love to learn and hear about what life was at his time, and listening to his wisdom and how he really saw the world from a different point of view.
Okay, awesome. There you go. So now, second question. An article's being written about you after you're gone. Not what's in it, but what's the title? What's the header? What's the title? The headline.
She loved life and sharing from her heart.
Superb. And finally, what do you do every morning to set yourself up for success? I think I know part of it, but go ahead. I want to hear it from you.
I start off with my morning meditation and some reading and some journaling. And then I work out, and then I start my day. I have been practicing my rituals on a daily basis, and that's where I talk about part of what I talk about alignment, for probably close to 30 years now.
That's
every
amazing.
Single day. And whether I'm at home, on the road, regardless of the time zone, they might change a little bit up and down, but I do them every single day.
That's tremendous. And that's a great habit to get into. That's a way to start your morning. Meditate, journal, and exercise. Mind, body, and spirit. I love that. That's great. Dr. J, this has been an amazing podcast. I'm so glad that you joined us. Thank you for gracing us, our audience. Thank you for gracing me with your presence. We're humbled to have you, and I hope that you get lots of success, continued success. Folks, Dr. Karen Jacobson, drkarenjacobson.com. You can reach her, reach out, get her book her to speak, or heck, just reach out and say, hi, I heard you on The Bald Truth. And I just want to thank you for being with us, Karen. Thanks for joining us, spending some time with us today.
Well, thank you, Coach Rick, for everything that you do. And thank you for the opportunity.
It's been our pleasure. Folks, I'm Coach Rick, and that's The Bald Truth.
You've been listening to The Bald Truth with Coach Rick of the Peak Performance Group, the company that helps people and organizations reach their potential. If you're looking for a way to grow your organization, whether it's sales or strategic direction, the Peak Performance Group coaches can help you grow with their proven business acceleration process. Call them at 817-748-7425 or go to mypotentialplus.com and they'll connect you with the right coach for you. And remember to subscribe and like below. The Bald Truth Leadership Podcast is available on iTunes, Spotify, iHeart, and YouTube video. Hit like and subscribe to get every episode. Thanks for listening to the Bald Truth Leadership Podcast. And until next time, roll up your sleeves and get to work, and you can make things happen.
I'm Coach Rick, and that's The Bald Truth.